First of all, good afternoon everybody. It's not often that I'll do two videos back to back, especially about the same subject, Conor Ben. But I think this is a really important video and I would like you all to like, subscribe and share this video as much as you can. It's not often I say that. So some of us have been perplexed by the Conor Ben is clean. Conor Ben has been proved innocent, found innocent by the WBC claims and his own social media. And it was really only after watching Danny Flexen with the fantastic Gabriel Montoya, the PEDS author and expert, when the penny dropped. So what I did after yesterday's video is I watched the interview with Montoya. I read the WBC statement about 3 times. I also read the British Boxing Board of Control statement. And I read a feature on this from the Times, who had actually interviewed Ben at the time, who was protesting his innocence last October. Now, this is quite complicated, but it's also quite stunning what's happened here. It's just unbelievable. So it appears, and this is looking very, very likely, reading again, as I've said, the WBC statement, watching Gabriel Montoya, reading Robert Smith's statement from the Board of Control, and other details, it would appear that the WBC have only taken into account test number 1, the first test that was failed at the end of July. Okay, what's the significance of that? The significance is actually quite stunning. So first of all, test number 1 was done as part of the VADA WBC Clean Boxing Program enrollment. And what happens as part of that first test is the WBC have not applied, it must be a discretionary thing, they haven't applied what's called strict liability. So what is strict liability in terms of anti-doping? Strict liability means, in a nutshell, if you have got anything in your system, you are found with anything in your system, you will receive a ban. You will be punished, you will receive a ban. I understand that the WBC are a ranking and organisational body, by the way, but they're not a licensing body. But the point I want to get across is strict liability equals an automatic ban. That's standard. That's what the British Boxing Board of Control will apply, and that's what other people will apply as well when they're looking at adverse findings. What's the difference between the first and second test? The difference is the timing. The first test was done, as I've said, as part of the Clean Boxing Programme enrolment. Ben at that time was not in competition, i.e. he hadn't signed and organised the fight, so technically he wasn't in camp. Had he been in camp, which is the case with the second adverse finding, which the WBC have not focused on, they would have had to apply strict liability, which meant he would have been automatically dropped from WBC's rankings. Why hasn't Conor Ben applied for a British Boxing Board of Control licence again after not renewing his licence? Well, now it's become quite clear. Robert Smith again said in the statement that the British Boxing Board of Control will apply the strict liability. In a nutshell, it's been proven there was no contamination at the laboratories. It's been proven clomiphene was in Conor Ben's system with 2 adverse findings. The British Boxing Board of Control will apply strict liability and they will ban Conor Ben, or they will not license Conor Ben. Effectively, that is the same thing. These are the smoke screens that Team Ben, his legal team, his lawyers, Matchroom, Frank Smith and Eddie Hearn, these are the things that everybody's dancing around right now. I'm going to put a link in my comment section for the Danny Flexen Gabriel Montoya interview. It's absolutely stunning, and those 2 are amongst the best things I've seen on this whole situation. Anybody asking, Julian, you're still talking about this Conor Ben situation? Why? Let it go. There's a lot of reasons I'm not going to let this go. I'm going to continue to talk about this. Me and Porky, Russell Hartley, we were talking about this last night. We've got to continue to talk about this. Cheats, drugs cheats, cannot be allowed to prosper. And cheats and drug cheats cannot be allowed to prosper in a contact sport, a physically dangerous contact sport. There's enough injuries in boxing. We don't need any more with chemically enhanced fighters in that ring who can go beyond to the next level. We don't need that. So that's why we've got to keep on about this. Do not be fooled by Conor Benn. No matter what Eddie comes out and says in the next few weeks, so there's got a little bit quiet on this one. Do not be fooled by that. Do not be fooled by Jose Sullivan. Jose Sullivan is a disgrace of a man, and when pushed last night in interviews about the Conor Benn situation, Jose Sullivan said, "I am not a scientist, but what I have ruled stays." There you go. I've made a decision, even though I'm not a scientist. This is where we're at with boxing right now. This is where we're at with this corruption. Finally, and this is something I didn't touch on my video yesterday, and it's not often, I'm not a troll, I'm really not a troll, but I was made aware that Conor Benn had put another post on social media, on Instagram, giving it the big finger, obviously to everybody else who doesn't believe in him, and I was compelled to comment. I put a very clean, honest comment on Conor Benn's Instagram page, and I don't know if that's been responded to or not. Now, effectively what I'm saying is this, and then I'll wind the video down, so apologies and thank you for your patience, everybody. When you buy eggs from wherever you buy them from, okay, there is what's called a chain of custody. There'll be an item number and a unique vendor code on any food packaging. It's standard. We have very strict regulations about what food comes into the UK. Now that chain of custody, if eggs have been farmed outside of the UK and in Europe, or even further than Europe, which wouldn't really be the case with eggs, that chain of custody can go right back to the root cause. So Conor Benn, with receipts for food, remember, everything he has and everything he eats and drinks is measured, is accounted for, is strict. Conor Benn will have receipts and packaging for the type of eggs that he consumes. From there, you'll be able to go right back to the origins of where those eggs were farmed. And then we would know if that egg farming facility, we would know if they use clomiphene or not. Clomiphene is outlawed in the UK, it's outlawed in several countries in Europe, but not all of them. And that is a real clear way for Conor Benn to clean his name. I said this last night to him on Instagram. You've got a real good opportunity now, instead of spending probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds on a fantastic legal team. All you need to do is to trace down that chain of custody, prove where those eggs came from, and this is not difficult. Any cereal you've got in your cupboards, you can find all this information, you can find out where it's imported from, where it's manufactured, where it comes from. It's not difficult. We were in the EU, but we still trade with the EU, and the chain of custody, the paper trail and the digital trail is very, very easy to get hold of. Every single thing we eat, consume, buy, even if it's non-foods, if it's raw goods, materials, base materials, it doesn't matter. Everything has a chain of custody. The importing laws into the UK are very, very strict, very, very clear. Auditing happens to every single importer. So where Conor Benn's eggs come from, we would know. Conor Benn, you have a really good opportunity to clear your name. People like myself will put our hands up and say, we were wrong. You haven't been cheating. My sincere apologies. I am really sorry I got this wrong. And I will stand up and I will say that publicly, not an issue. You're choosing not to do this. You're choosing not to share your findings with the British Boxing Board of Control or UKAD. You are being very, very technical about how you do this. You're getting advice from lawyers. Your lawyers have found loopholes. But I would encourage anybody, I don't believe any journalists watch my channel or get to see these videos. Some of them do follow what's on Porky's Corner. If this gets shared by my friend Porky, I would ask all of you guys the next time you interview Conor Benn or the next time you interview Jose Sullivan or any of these people who's involved in this, Eddie Hearn, ask them if the WBC response was to both of the adverse tests or just to one. Let's see what the response is. And ask the WBC if they received a paper trail, a chain of custody, going right back to the source of where the eggs came from. Ask them those two things. That's all you need to ask them. Corner Ben, you can clear your name. You can fight again with a clean license in the UK, and you'll get the love and the respect from the British public if you clear your name. And you have to ask yourself at this point why you've not done so. It's really simple. It wouldn't cost you an absolute fortune, and I'd encourage you to do it. But we know why you're not, don't we? We all know. You can't fool anybody. Until you do that, you're going to be public enemy number one. And no one in the boxing community, promoters, managers, trainers, agents, everybody, but most of all fighters, nobody will respect you and nobody will believe you because you're choosing not to clear your name. You are using technicalities and loopholes and showing no remorse, no apology, just arrogance, because that's the type of person you are. Prove me wrong, Connor. Prove everybody wrong. I actually would like you to prove me wrong, genuinely, because we need some clean athletes in this sport. And a few years ago, I thought you were one of them. Thank you, everybody. Please like, subscribe and share, and leave your comments if you disagree, agree, anything whatsoever. Thank you.
Porky's Corner is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Site Solutions. They are specialists in civil engineering and demolition contracts for the construction industry. Interested parties should visit their website or contact Porky's Corner for a referral at porkycorner@mail.com.